Salute, Knicks Nation. Salute to the chat. Let's talk about this one as the New York Knicks lose back to back on the road after a rewarding, West Coast trip in terms of, getting out unscathed after Brunson went down, getting some dubs. The Knicks have given it all back, right, with two bad losses and a lot of soul searching to be done as the New York Knicks will face the Wiz on Saturday after going down tonight, man, 98-115, basically in a game where the New York Knicks the starters had no business just being out there. All of them outplayed, out-muscled, out-hustled, all in the minus. And Tom Thibodeau refused to go further into the rotation, 8-man rotation tonight. And it showed, the players did not have enough. The intensity wasn't there defensively. It was a layup line all night for the Charlotte Hornets. LaMelo Ball, Miles Bridges, Seth Curry even got in on the act. Daquan Jeffries, Mark Williams. I mean, it was despicable tonight. The energy was lacking. Obviously, we know second night of a back-to-back, and you got to put things in perspective, context. No Mitchell Robinson tonight as well. No Jalen Brunson. However, the New York Knicks should not be losing these type of games. They should be beating the Charlotte Hornets, who only have 17 wins on the season. Inexcusable, right? And I've definitely got to lump this one on the coach because, the players, didn't show up. But obviously, second night of a back-to-back, I mean, what were you going to expect? I feel like Thibs should have gone 10, 11 man tonight. If guys got it early, and if they don't, you got to go down further down the bench. Lily Phillips is with us, says yuck. Chris Gotti says bench gets an F. GK, good evening. Lots to talk about, man, and we're going to go through the playoff scenarios because the New York Knicks are basically looking at the finish line. I feel like certain players, and I know a lot of people are getting on Precious Achua right now, and rightfully so, but obviously the finish line is in sight, and a lot of players feel like they're kind of stuck in mud, and some of them maybe even checked out. Precious Achua looks like he kind of checked out. I said that a few weeks back. Obviously, Charlotte didn't want to get swept on the season, and they showed a lot of energy tonight again. They knew that the Knicks were on the second night of a back-to-back, but I mean, man, what's it going to take for Thibs to understand the situations? Grinding down these 8 men to try to pull out a second win, try to pull out the win on the second night of a back-to-back is insane. You got guys like Tyler Colette could have played. PJ Tucker, who just signed a second 10-day deal today. So the club plans to keep PJ around, which I'm fine with. I got no problems with. But obviously, it'd be nice to see him out there, second night of a back-to-back. DeLon Wright, you traded him for Jericho Sims. Throw him out there, man. Campaign, stinking up the joint. 2 of 8. No bench points until halfway through the second quarter. It was crazy. M. Jean says, we're just slightly an above average team. In my opinion, our record is inflated. That's a great comment, man. That's a great comment. I think we're an above average team, obviously. Our record shows we're a good team. But the way the roster's constructed, we're very heavily reliant on Jalen Brunson. And you could say he's the MVP. I'll be fine with that. I don't think you'd be wrong if anyone says JB is the MVP. I think defensively, we're seeing how much Mitchell Robinson means to this team. You take him out, and it's kind of back to the same old habits earlier in the season. But I do agree that our record is inflated. Thibs does grind. He pushes guys. He plays 7, 8 man more than any other coach. and thus the record is a bit more inflated than other teams. Maybe by only a couple of games, but yeah, Thibs does squeeze all the juice that he possibly can out of the guys. Margaret says McCall called Thibs out. You play the starters too much, and we have a bench. We have Kolek, Beauchamp that could have played tonight. Yeah, 100%. Margaret, especially on the second night of a back-to-back, with all that travel. It ain't like both games are at MSG. I mean, 5-game West Coast trip, come back to New York, fly over to Texas, back to North Carolina, and then, still the same rotation tonight. It's like he's expecting this. He's expecting different results, doing the same thing. Especially after that Texas game, man. And man, I understand every fan has a right to feel upset, angry, frustrated tonight. I'm with you. Right, we can handle a loss from time to time, but it's just how you lose. It's inexcusable. We couldn't even bridge the gap. Like last night, they showed a lot of fight. They got the game down twice, down to 8 points. It was a slow start, but still an inexcusable game. But tonight as well, you can't even pull it within 10 against a team with 17 wins is awful, right? And Thibs finally emptied the bench, as we see. Stefan Bondi showed the guys that got in saying that it's over. We had Beauchamp get in for 2 minutes. Anton Watson, Tyler Kolek, together with Shamit and Precious Achua. Our bench is really struggling right now, more than it's ever struggled. And we already know it ain't a good bench right now. Obviously, Deuce is starting, and so, that weakens the bench even more. Shamit, man, I'm done with him because he can't hit an open J. Cameron Payne can't set the table, and he's not shooting well at the moment either. Precious Achua, one of his worst games as a New York Knick tonight, didn't even pass the ball to Josh Hart for an open and one. On the break, it looks visibly checked out after a few weeks now. I think since Mitch got back. And give these young fellas a shot. Whoever's hungry right now. Like I said, the finish line is in sight. Fortunately, we've done the heavy lifting. As I bring this up, fortunately, the New York Knicks have basically all but secured a playoff spot. Here we sit as I refresh now. A salute to everyone in the chat as well. I'll get to as many comments as I can. But tough game, tough back-to-back scenario. The NBA, the schedule makers did not do the New York Knicks any favors, but Tom Thibodeau made things worse by not extending the rotation. The New York Knicks are just 17 games over now. 18 games over 500. No, actually, they will go down to 17 games over 500. And look, the Pacers, they're just 3.5 games back. They're on a 2-game winning streak. The Bucks are about 4.5 games back after the adjustment to our loss today. Who knows? We might slip down to 4, possibly 5. We don't know the status of Jalen Brunson exactly and when he's going to be able to return, but we just have to grit out some of these wins now. We've got Wizards coming up on Saturday, man, and they are going to smell blood in the water with this situation. I mean, pull up our schedule, fam. We've got Washington, Dallas back at home. Fortunately, after Washington, there's a 2-day rest. Then Dallas. You have to win those next 2. No excuses. And then you got the Clippers on the second night of a back-to-back. You got Milwaukee, Portland, and then a tough April as well. Hopefully, JB can get back. We do have an update earlier today, pre-game. We talk about the league. The Celtics got sold, man, for $6 billion, and their tax bill is going to be crazy next season. But basically here, Jalen Brunson's update. He is now out of a walking boot and he's doing some light shooting, hoping to get games in for him ahead of the playoffs, reports Steve Popper of Newsday. And the math on Brunson, obviously medically, will take the priority, but Brunson needs to play 4 more games in order to be eligible to meet some postseason awards. So, I got to think if he's right, he'll play the cap. But they maybe shouldn't push him back too soon. CC says, why did Kolek not play tonight? Your guess is as good as mine. Thibs just doesn't trust him right now. Ernest says, I'm disgusted with the team. J.I. says, how could you say we're a bad bench when all Thibs played was Campaign and Shamit until the bitter end? Well, yeah, the bench that played is bad. I'm not talking about the whole roster. I'm talking about the bench that played. The bench that Thibs is currently playing in the rotation is bad. They're not performing right now. I absolutely feel that Thibs should be playing some other guys, but it doesn't look like he's going to do that, man. I'm done sort of expecting Thibs to make an adjustment. He is what he is right now, and look, he's more and more likely to get fired by the day as the season wraps up. Right. Obviously, it's going to happen in the summer. It's going to be a summer thing, but if the season ends poorly, Thibs will be in the hot seat. Lily Phillips is expecting to lose when guys like Shamit and Precious are in the rotation. I think a lot of the burden falls on those guys with Deuce starting now, and they've been found out. When Deuce is playing with those guys, it kind of masks it a little bit more. Building Blocks says Pistons and Magic will handle us right now. Well, it depends what team, fam. Depends what team. If Jalen Brunson's back and Mitchell Robinson's back, I still think we're favorites. Are we, are we susceptible to an upset? Yeah, absolutely. But I do think the Knicks would deserve to be favorites in that series. You take the best player off any team, and it is rough, So Mitch missed tonight due to injury management. I like that personally. I'm not upset because the bigger prize is the playoffs, and you got to have some foresight. Mitchell Robinson, he's been making progress every game. The minutes have gone up. Second night of a back-to-back. He played well last night, and you sit him out tonight. But defensively, we are shambles, man. We're a shambles without Mitch, fam. Hopefully Huck Porty's back before the playoffs as well. Let's not forget about Huck, because what that means is that Thibs can play more Mitch and Cat together, right? The problem is if there's no proper backup after Mitch, then he has to stagger those lineups more. But if there's another guy that can back up Mitch, that means that he can play those two together. Because right now, Precious Achiuwa is just not it. Not it for me. We talked about that last night. Kevin McCullough's triple-double, but that's more of a next season thing. Yeah, let's take a look at the box score now, and we've already looked at the schedule, man. The Knicks have to win the next two. There's no doubt about it. I think tonight was more of a schedule loss. We are obviously better than the Charlotte Hornets, so I know there's going to be a lot of overreactions tonight, but inexcusable from Thibs to understand that these guys just were leggy and gassed, and you got to go further down into the bench. The thing that aggravates me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, we signed PJ Tucker again to a second 10-day. We've got rookies on the bench. You've got DeLon Wright. Make a change up. Make a change up. Nia says Thibs losing that locker room. Possibly, possibly. I won't be surprised if there's some small fraction in the locker room. I don't think he's going to lose everyone because I know Hart rocks with Thibs. I know JB rocks with Thibs. I think Karl Anthony Towns would support Thibs as well. But Thibs is just confounding things for himself, as well. M. Jean says we have done the heavy lifting, but damn, we're limpering to the finish line. Hope we can steer the ship. Yeah, absolutely, and you're 100% spot on. And I say this every season, guys. All the guests we have on as well, from Mark Berman, who covered Thibs a lot throughout his career. He said it. Thibs's regular season record every season is inflated, right? He pushes the guys a bit more than other regular season coaches just to get that 5-8 more wins, and then when the playoffs hit, it's level playing field, and guys, one team's tired and the other team might not be as tired. So it's a sacrifice. You could say we're going to win maybe 51, 52 wins, and you get the third seed. You like that, you take that. But then you also have to deal with the sacrifice, that when the playoffs begin, you might be more banged up than the other team. So it's kind of like, which one do you pick? Would you prefer 46 wins and finish in the 5 seed? Or are you somebody that likes the Knicks to push like Thibs and get, 52 wins, finish in the 3rd seed? Because right now, I think if Thibs expanded his rotation, guys would be less banged up, but we'd probably have a few more losses, we'd probably have a few more losses. Building Block says we're going to lose a bunch of games to good teams in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, I expect we'll probably be below 500, fam, for the rest of the stretch. Hopefully, other teams don't catch up. But if we do slip down to 4, I don't know if it'll be the end of the world, because we are still going to get home court, and we will avoid Boston, fam. So that could be a mini blessing in disguise, but it just depends on where all the chips fall. As I bring this up again, fam, if there's a chance that the Knicks slip down to 4, let's say, we might end up playing the Bucks 4-5, and then if we advance, we play Cleveland in the 2nd round, not Boston. But basically, we just have to be ready for a tough series. There's so many different scenarios. I can't tell you where we're going to finish, who's going to climb up, who's going to fall down. The Knicks just need to get back on the horse and start pulling out some dubs. Ji says, why did we call up Kolek? He's better off in Westchester getting playing time, and no excuses on the back-to-back. Coach's decision how players are used. Yeah, I feel like obviously they called up Kolek because they think maybe if there's one guy in injury, he's next man up, you would think. It is noteworthy that Deuce McBride was questionable before tonight's ball game. If you saw last night, he took a knee to the groin. He took a shot. I think he was always going to play, but yeah, he was questionable. But yeah, to your point, Kolek getting reps in the G League. I think he's had quite a few reps this season. I think hopefully now Thibs is looking at him maybe for a guy that, is next man up in the playoffs. If someone goes down, maybe he is inching closer. The hope I'm thinking is maybe he's inching closer to benching Payne. SF Wisdom says the Sixers signed Okeke, and he got a double-double last night in his first game. We signed PJ to get splinters. I mean, who knows what would have happened if we signed Okeke. I'm not mad at it. I would like us to still get Okeke if we can. I think we can still waive somebody in the last week of the season. But obviously, I don't see Okeke getting minutes, under Thibs. Dardier should be ahead of all those guys, to be truthful. CC says when Shaman is in the ball game with Deuce and Payne, he's open and they look him off as well. Yeah, the Thibs system, reading and reacting, players miss open players and all of that happens. That's why a lot of good coaches blend their system with half sets, like pre-ran, pre-called sets, and some reading and reacting, isolation, pick and roll from your best player. I think it does need to be mixed up a bit. And Thibs just, he has his system. He's very point guard reliant, fam. I said this, I think 2 streams back, but Thibs is basically nothing offensively without a solid to good point guard. You look at all the success he's had. Derrick Rose, elite point guard. Jalen Brunson, makes his offensive system look pretty, more pretty than it is. You take those guys out, we got guys running around like headless chicken. I mean, I love Deuce McBride. He's one of my favorite players, but he is not a point guard. And Cameron Payne is just not a starting point guard either. Right now, and so we're really missing JB. Ari, salute to you. Says I'm ready to scream my head off. I never want to see Payne Shamet again. And why is Thibs playing 8 men on the second of the back-to-back? I've had it with Thibs also. Get him out of here, Leon. I feel you. Obviously, a lot of fans are upset right now, angry, and we're seeing the same things from Thibs over and over. We'll see what happens, man, in the playoffs. I think that'll basically decide Thibs' fate, in my opinion. Thibs has pushed this team to the brink. He's got us to the 3rd seed, and like I said, he's squeezed all of the juice that he can get. And we're going to limp over the finish line. And you could have 2 options. You could have where we are right now, ready to fall into the 3rd seed, limp over the line, and maybe be banged up. Or you could have Thibs, lighten the load a bit, and maybe we win 40, 48 wins this season, and we finish in the 5 seed. At the end of the day, I think whatever Thibs does in the playoffs is gonna ultimately determine his fate. But also, you take our best point guard off the team, and our best rim protector, and we don't stand much of a shot. We just don't. Building Block says, Leon, got to get this team right in the summer. The pieces we have right now stink. SF Wisdom, any updates on Huck Porty? Nothing at the moment, man. I think he had the minor operation to repair a torn meniscus. The timetable was 4 to 6, which was going to take him right up until basically the same as Brunson, on the edge of the season. So I'm going to still assume, whilst there's been no new updates, he's going to be ready around the final week of the season, maybe right before the playoffs. Hopefully we get an update before then. Yours truly, salute to you, says Thibs needs a timeout for himself. He's cooked. No fresh ideas, so nothing we need to change in the lineup. Like, now, let's go Knicks. Peter says, I told you so, bro. This coach is absolutely ridiculous. I will never change. Chris says, yeah, Deuce can't run an offense. He looks hesitant to pass it out at times. Yeah, I mean, in this NBA, guys, there could be schedule losses. There can be, other teams be bad matchups, all of that. But we've had Charlotte's measure for a long time now. Tonight, they smelled blood in the water. They just pushed the brake every single time. Guys getting up and down. No resistance, tiredness as well. And Tibbs should have understood that. Fam. And look, yeah, a lot of criticism from Leon for the offseason, the moves, some criticism from Tibbs. I get it. I think we will be a lot stronger in terms of the roster next season. You gutted your depth on the eve of the season with DiVincenzo. You lost Isaiah as well as losing Randall. That's 3 key rotation pieces. You get back Cat and you get back Bridges. Right now, yeah, I would say they've done their job for the regular season, getting us to the 3rd seed. Right now, it's time for them to show up. It's time for them to shoulder the load with JB out. They have to step up into that alpha role right now, and they've failed. They've failed in the last 2 games. But obviously, defensively, Cat's not a defensive player. Bridges should be. Last night, Thibs played Mitch the right amount of minutes, and he made a big impact. But Hart looks definitely tired this part of the season. My biggest thing with Thibs is, to not be playing Pacome Dardier at least like 8 to 12 minutes a night. I think a good coach would try to get, a better coach would try to get Pacome Dardier in there for like 8 to 12 minutes behind OG and Mikal, and slide him in for next season, so that he can start, getting used to the NBA, right? Marajon Beauchamp, a lot of pointless moves being made from Leon. The DeLon Wright situation not being utilized either. I think that is contributing. CC says we need those younger legs to run with the bench young players as well. Yep, definitely. Altieri says, doesn't matter who's available, Thibs will mismanage the rotation. Too talented to look like this. Yeah, I think you're right as well. I think there's a bit of everything in terms of Thibs not using guys, but also the guys we have could look better, I think, as well. Better rotations, better lineups. But yeah, I think more so today was more of a schedule loss, but obviously we've seen a lot of bad stuff from the last, basically the last month, and counting. GK says there's no reason to even discuss keeping Thibs, not a single reason. I'm finding it hard. I know what the one reason will be, is that a lot of the players will still want to keep him around. A lot of the guys will play for him. Leon, look how they defend him. Thibs will Hart will defend him. JB will defend him. Bridges, on the other hand, that is a wait and see. That is a wait and see. Chris says it. I talked about it last night. Precious has checked out. Right, it's simple, man. I know people are just realizing now, but I said that 2 weeks ago, maybe even longer. After Mitch got back, I could just see him on the bench. I'm watching MSG on my league pass, and I can rewind, I can pause. Every time they showed the bench, even during good moments, good wins, the bench was going crazy, cheering. You would see Precious Achua sitting there, basically like stone-faced, not showing any kind of emotion. I think he's upset he lost his minutes. There were some nights he was DNP. His minutes went from 30 a night down to all the way down to like 0 some nights, when Mitchie got back. So that's on Thibs as well. You just need to go to the next guy, right? If he's not being a team player, then he can sit on the bench and leave in the off season, right? Knicks fan 518 says the whole team looked questionable all game. Most def. That's up for the coach to understand the situation, because these guys, they're human. The human body can withstand but so much. There were sitting ducks tonight, in terms of the travel, the schedule, and that. But Thibs should have understood the situation. But again, he just doesn't want to adjust, man. Oliver Garrett says, I can't believe this. You guys, the other basketball teams, are just embarrassing New York. Juan V says, all the young players are flourishing after leaving the Knicks. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but like, I don't really have any issue with Quentin Grimes playing well now. You know, he's up for a contract a couple of years down the line. Players do get better. You know, last year we're trying to make a big run. Bogdanovich contract did get us Mikal Bridges. Dallas gave up on Grimes as well. Detroit gave up on Grimes. Obi is so inconsistent. I know he had a game winner the other night. I'm cool with the RJ quickly trades. I mean, the guys we got to play better, man. I'm not pining over guys young players that have left. Man, they didn't show enough when they were New York Knicks. Above the rim says 8-man rotation is diabolical. 100%. 100%. Some guys go 11, man. Emi Udoka, I said last night, you know, in Houston. Sometimes he'll play 11-man. Cardiac says, imagine losing Bridges in UFA next season. All of them firsts for a 2-year role player rental. I don't think that will happen. Obviously, there was the threat of losing OG as well, and there was the temptation to take the bag, but the Knicks had to up their offer. I think worst case scenario, the Knicks will just have to overpay, fam. But they ain't gonna be losing Bridges. Best believe that after giving up all them picks. And look, Bridges is fine to hang around, man. Bridges off the bench could be ace, right? Ideally, I'm thinking bigger picture, guys. I'm thinking we either get, we get a nice wing, we can integrate into that spot, and you slide Bridges and Hart to the bench, man. Mitch becomes a starter next season, OG to the 3, and you replace Bridges' starting spot with, another player that you can pick up or draft. Pacome Dardier takes a step forward. Deuce McBride might ultimately be the best guy to take that starting spot. There's options, but ultimately my vision for this team isn't a whole lot of shake-up, but Hart back to the bench next season, Mitch starting, because Cat can't be the 5 no more, and Mikal Bridges, if you can make a better, another upgrade to bolster the squad, Bridges to the bench. Then you've really got a solid bench. Freeway says, come on, CT, you cannot be confident against Detroit after this. Less confident, 100%, but still confident. Still confident, man. Obviously, if Jalen Brunson's back, if Mitchie's back as well, I think it goes 6. Like I said last night, I don't think the Knicks are finishing no team in less than 6 games, but I still think the Knicks in 6 if Brunson and Mitchie are back fully healthy. And I'll tell you why, man. You win the first 2 games, and basically, you've won the series. You sell out. You make sure you take home court. You win game 1. You win game 2. You force Detroit to have to win both of their games in Detroit. And if they don't, the season's over. If they do, then the series probably goes 7. And then you've got game 7 on your home floor. But you must win the first 2. You must win the first 2. You must win the first 2. GK says, no clue why anyone is expecting big things in the playoffs. I think the worst case scenario would be, first round exit. But what I'm looking for is bigger picture stuff as well, GK. I'm looking for okay, this is the squad. What are they going to show me in the playoffs so that we know what we're dealing with next season? What kind of changes do we have to make? Does just Bridges have an excellent series and show that he can be a dude? Does he stink it up? Does Mitchell Robinson, win us another series and show that he's the guy to keep at the 5? What does Cat look like? all of those things. But if we can get to the second round and push Boston, push Cleveland, and feel good about going into the following season, then I don't necessarily think that's a failure, because I don't think we're winning the chip. We're not obviously not winning the chip this year, but if they can show me some gutsy, wins and fortitude, take care of the first round, show that you can hang with Boston and Cleveland in the second, then you build off that. But I'm definitely trying to be realistic, man. I'm not going to be like, oh man, if the Knicks don't get to the third round, it's a failure and all of that. I do think obviously the second round is going to be a tough scenario. Boston, Cleveland, our roster just doesn't stack up. Being realistic, we have to add a few pieces. The problem is, guys, with you're looking at your Beauchamps, your Wrights, Colex, it's too late in the season for Thibs to make an adjustment. Now, should he? Definitely, he should make that. But for him and his standards, it's too late in the season. He ain't just gonna yank campaign. I think that's how you lose that locker room, right? If you guys want to know how you lose that locker room, you lose the locker room by yanking one of the veterans that on the eve of the playoffs, that got you where they're at. And I understand you could still think it's the right thing to do to put Kolek out there, put Dardier out there. But from Thibs' perspective, he's worried that he's going to lose the locker room. If he pulls Cameron Payne, if he shortens somebody's minutes to give Dardier a chance, I think that could change things up in the locker room. El Tango salute. Shez V. Cardiac Knicks is in the building. Peter says, I watch other teams that develop their players, that have great games and career highs against us constantly. What other teams are doing is basically they're coasting throughout the regular season at times, and the Knicks are pushing full throttle. And what happens is some nights we don't have it, some nights the other team has it. At the end of the day, I think Thibs trusts his 7-8 guys, and it catches up to you. It catches up to you in certain nights, mentally as well. A lot of mental fatigue, guys. Don't just think it's physical. It's mental. Imagine being away from your family for over a week. You get back for a day or two, and then I tell you got to go to Texas again, and then you got to lose sleep and fly to North Carolina, play a game. I mean, you probably wake up and you don't know where you're at. And so that's another reason why Thibs needs to be extending that rotation. So yeah, it's that situation. Guys are playing banged up as well. They're not going to tell you, man. They're going to defend their toughness. Cat got, his hands hurting, his knees hurting, his head's probably hurting right now. Deuce McBride took a shot to the man region, and basically it was questionable. It was a perfect storm once again. I said it last night. Perfect storm for San Antonio to catch a banged up Knicks. Perfect storm tonight for the Charlotte Hornets, who are a bad team trying to feel good about themselves for a night. They had all the motivation in the world to get this one done. You can only hope now that we can catch some sleep, get some rest, and come back Saturday, beat up on the Wiz, 2 days rest again, then beat up on the Dallas Mavericks, and hopefully we can start to get some momentum back. Get some good news about Jalen Brunson, and then we start to look further to the finish line. How many wins can you guys see in April? Let us know. Obviously, Washington and Dallas, we think should be a win. The Clippers, I'm not banking on that. Milwaukee, I'm not banking on that. Portland, MSG, that should be a win. So let's say 3 more in March. April, you've got Philly. That has to be a win. So that should be 4. That gets us to 47. Cleveland should be a loss. ATL is going to be 50-50. Phoenix, Boston, Detroit, Cleveland, and Brooklyn. So, yeah, we're in serious jeopardy of not getting to 50. But really, that doesn't mean much unless we can, that doesn't mean much if we can solidify the 3rd seed. I really don't care how many wins the Knicks finish with. It's all about the seeding. I get people are just frustrated because, look, we all love our team, man. We're all here because we're passionate. We all want to see the Knicks win. But the coaching right now is at the top of most people's frustrations, I think, right? Most people can understand the roster, the vision, and it's not a complete, it's not a finished product, right? It's closer to being a finished product. It's still a work in progress. Leon's got some questions to answer this offseason. But the biggest question marks most people have are our coach right now. He squeezed the life out of this roster. Jalen Brunson. Obviously, we're not a 50-win team without him. So how far can we go, man? How far can we go this season? Figure out who's worth keeping, who's going to show up in the playoffs, and obviously see how Thibs coaches. But at the end of the day, I think there will be changes. There will be some significant changes in the summer. I think there will be hopefully some bench tweaks, potentially 1 or 2 starting spots switched up, whether it's Bridges to the bench, whether it's Mitch coming in as a starter and Hart goes to the bench. We all kind of know what has to change for next season, but I'm going to root like hell. I'm down for the ride this postseason. Mitch starting, I think, changes things defensively. Without him, we don't have a hope. Without Mitch healthy and Brunson, we might lose to Detroit. We might lose to Indiana. But also, guys, we won't be the only team. Just take a look at this. The big story today, the Boston Celtics get sold for a record sports franchise price, $6.1 billion. Right. The team was purchased for just $360 million, and the profit that they make is astronomical. But as Bobby Marks points out, the league is introducing, starting July 1, more stringent luxury tax rules that's going to penalize high-spending teams. For example, this offseason, every $3 million that Boston spends on a new free agent is going to cost them an additional $25 million, right? And Al Horford is their free agent. So that they don't have a hope in the world of re-signing Al Horford. They might have to let Kristaps go and do a 2-for-1, reduce their payroll. They might have to let Al Horford walk, reduce their payroll. Right now, the New York Knicks aren't at the second apron yet. They've done that so that they can have flexibility. Right now, Boston are a better roster, but they're starting to run up against a brick wall in terms of the CBA, and they can't improve the team basically anymore. What can the New York Knicks do? They've got more flexibility with some of the guys that they can move or tweak. Obviously, Deuce is going to be up for a contract in 2 years, though. So they do have to align their ducks and figure out who's worth keeping, what they need to do. Mitchell Robinson's got 1 more year to run on his contract next season. At the end of next season, he'll be a free agent. But like I said, Boston, they're in a real tough spot right now. Despite this sale, the new owners will be looking to cut the payroll down significantly. D. Grant says, CT, these guys knew what they were getting into when playing in the NBA. This is just another excuse. The problem, Thibs don't want to play his whole bench. I wish he would. It's frustrating. It's a situation where wherever Thibs has been, he hasn't changed. He likes his 7-8 guys, and he'll continue to go down with them. Right now, the rookies, he wants to win every single game. He just needs some more flexibility, right? As I said last night, the playoffs are the be-all, end-all. Regular season to me, man, if I had my way, I would make the regular season 60 games. I don't believe in my heart that the NBA regular season shouldn't be any more than 60 games. Right? It's a money grab. Right? Think how much better the product would be if players played 60 games. There'd be more 2-day rests. Players would be able to give their maximum. They would be more healthy. More stars would be playing. The games would mean more. We'd key in and lock in these games because they would be more important. And I do feel like then the playoffs, you could extend the playoffs, or you could have a little rest and make sure everyone's ready to go. Because the regular season is a glorified warm-up for me. And Thibs treats it like his job depends on it, like his life depends on it. And really, what can you really gain in the regular season? Right? Seeding? Okay, I understand that. But what else? Chemistry? But do you need 82 games to build chemistry? What else can you really gain from, running guys out there for 82 games, just to get some seeding? Because right now we could see a scenario where the Knicks are legitimately the third best team in the East, but they lose in the first round to Detroit, or they lose in the first round to the Bucks or the Pacers, right? And then you're asking yourself, why the heck? What did we do all that for? What was the regular season all about? It's nothing but a cash grab, in my opinion. The 82 games, right? When the playoffs begin, it's 0-0, right? Teams that finish but well below you could upset you. They could be healthy at the right time. It's really a gamble. It's really just a gamble. Al Tango says it's all about seeding and the momentum we're going to have into the playoffs. Another key factor will be our health and our freshness. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's why I'm further back from what Thibs is all about. I'm more like a player 10 guys. It's going to benefit you in the long run. You have guys get more experience. Yeah, you might lose a few more games, but your record will be more reflective, I think, of where you're at. I do think our record is inflated, definitely. And I was like, Peter says, the guys must play better. If they don't have it, Thibs needs to dig deeper into the bench. No question, we'd be better off playing Kolek. Facts. So, yeah, you feel extremely, extremely confident. Yeah, I want to see more from Kolek, but obviously I don't think you have anything to lose, upgrading, replacing Campaign with Kolek from a playmaking standpoint. D. Grant says Al Horford will likely retire with his old self. Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. Yeah, I can't see the Celtics keeping him, man. To think if $3 million is going to cost you 25, imagine what it's going to cost to re-sign Al Horford for maybe 10. Unless he just decides to give them a veteran minimum discount. Salvador says, was the team Thibs had with Timberwolves, Jimmy, Cat, Rose, Teague, then some, better than today's Knicks? He was fired after those playoffs. I think, yeah, the West is a tough scenario because if there's no pathway through, it kind of at the end of the road, and then they make changes. If one of the reasons why they might not fire Thibs is if they can see sunlight through the through the end of the tunnel. They might be more patient, is what I'm meaning. With Boston potentially regressing a little bit, losing some players, they might think Cleveland, caught lightning in a bottle for a season. They're going to come back down. Like realistically, would you guys bet on Cleveland being the number one seed again next year? Do you think they're just catching lightning in a bottle? Do you really feel like they're a 56 win, 13 loss team? I think there's a chance that they could regress a bit, but I don't think they're going to be regressing too much because their players are pretty young. They're healthy. They got stronger with DeAndre Hunter as well. And I do think the Knicks are legitimately deserve to be in that third spot. They've got the talent, but I just feel like the way Thibs is coached with the rotation, it's squeezed the life out of the team in terms of inflating the wins and losses. Obviously, we've dealt without Mitch as well, so a full season next season with a rim protector, I think together with Cat, is going to be huge. Yeah, I feel you, Peter, on the lack of adjustments from Thibs. At the end of the day, I mean, I'll say this about certain people I know, Thibs' age. This might have not much to do with Thibs specifically, but you guys all know a lot of 68-year-olds, 70-year-olds. It could be a trait of genuine stubbornness where they've lived their prime, they've learnt their principles, and they're just going to die on that sword. They're gonna double down on their principles, and at some point, if they feel like their principles aren't going to work, they still won't change because they're like, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to get fired and they're going to have to get paid out. Right? Thibs just got an extension. If Leon Rose was to fire Thibs, he gets a full payout. Like, he gets a payout. And so I'm not saying, and this goes against what Thibs would want. Thibs would not want to get fired, but at the end of the day, his principles, one of the reasons why he might not want to, deviate or change is because he might think, look, worst case scenario, I retire, 68. If I can't do it this way, I don't want to do it, and I'm going to get paid, so it's tough, man. I would have waited maybe one more year to extend Thibs. Leon was pretty quick to reward him after last season and give him the extension. I would have waited. I would have waited personally. Right? I mean, where's he going to go? Like, what are you going to be scared of losing Thibs? To another team, right? Normally, you have to re-sign a player because you're worried. They might go to a competitor. But I mean, Thibs, they could have waited. But also, I feel like we've changed our identity as a team, and we're not. The roster is not so much a Thibs kind of roster like it was last season. This kind of man, Karl Anthony Towns, his game, at the 5 is not what Thibs signed up for. I feel he needs Mitchell Robinson. He needs an Isaiah Hartenstein. He needs a Julius Randle type. Yeah, Altieri says Thibs also seems to be concerned about his legacy of all-time wins. That could be something motivating him as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no doubt. He just coaches every single win like it's be all end all, and that's where my biggest concern is because you have to see the forest from the trees. Regular season, like I said, I might be in the minority, man. I don't necessarily disrespect the regular season. I do think there are aspects of the regular season that are very important, but obviously 82 games is a lot, man. It's not baseball, But 82 games is a hell of a lot, man. Sometimes you just go through the motions, man. Like, honestly, I feel like we've played 100 ball games in the last 15 days, and I'm not even playing. Imagine what these players be thinking right now. Imagine what, even if they are thinking, their body's obviously tired as well, and they get paid very well, so they shouldn't complain. But from a practicality standpoint, I feel like 60 games would be best, personally, guys, because, the product would be a lot more strong, I feel. One of the issues the NBA faces is the product is watered down. Right? It just is. Second nights of back-to-backs, 3 and 4 nights, teams flying cities. It's crazy. But NBA don't mind because they're making that bread. So it looks like the Pacers win, like Above the Rim says. Pacers win 105 to Brooklyn 99. So what I can do now, let me refresh the standings. And we're in a situation where, yep, it's updated the New York Knicks. It's updated the Pacemakers. So lo and behold, 3.5 games back. Now, the Pacemakers are just 3.5 games back. So if the Knicks don't take care of Washington and they don't take care of Dallas after that, then it's going to get real tight because it's going to get tight because look at April. April, you've got Cleveland twice. You've got Boston there. You've got Phoenix, Detroit, ATL. And you've still got Milwaukee end of March. So the Knicks will do well to get to 50 wins. If they can claw 7 more wins out of the next 13 and finish 1 game above 500, it'll be an achievement. Obviously, if Brunson can get back sooner, then they have a really good shot. They have a really good shot. Like Altieri says, Cleveland will sustain its long-term success if Atkinson is coaching. Yeah, they definitely look really hungry right now. How much does that wear off determines, is going to determine how they do, I think, in the playoffs. We have seen a bit of regression from Boston, I think, based off their championship. A little bit of a hangover, which is normal. But would I have guessed that Boston would be a 20-loss team? Maybe they lose 20, 25 even, if they start to put the Q in the rack. So they have regressed a little bit. But I do think, yeah, they're not going anywhere. They're not going to fall off a cliff like Cleveland and Celtics. So the Knicks will have to make serious upgrades, I think, to get over the hump over Cleveland and Boston next season. After next season, yeah, it's tough to sit here and predict because, yeah, the NBA can change quickly, man. Like Giannis might leave the Bucks, and that swifts the power of the East. That can change the power of the East if Giannis stays in the East. If he goes out west, it'll change. But yeah, the Knicks, Cleveland, Boston, I think this is hopefully a 4 or 5 year run. Hopefully we can get a couple of championships. I'll sign up for one. But, Boston's payroll is something to pay attention to. Cleveland is going to start to get very, very expensive as well. Very, very expensive, fam. So maybe, just maybe, the work Leon Rose has done with these contracts and the alignments and the adjusting with JB's contract will come back to save us at some point. Johnny says it's lame to see other team rooks going ham on the Knicks, and our rooks only can get garbage time. It's tough, man. It's tough. One of the things I'm really looking forward to next season and hopeful is that, Dardier gets in, Colette gets in, right? And hopefully Leon Rose is thinking the same. Cameron Payne might be a 1-year stopgap. Let Kolek learn the ropes for a year, G League, get some NBA minutes, and then be ready to take on the full backup duty next season together with Deuce. I would like that, because obviously Campaign's going to be a free agent. He's a vet min, might be just a stopgap. Obviously, Landry Shamet needs to be upgraded. I'm looking at Pacome Dardier, ready-made solution. Throw him out there. He's 6'9", proper wing. Come in, hopefully give OG more of a rest. And obviously I'll learn off of Mikal. I think he's more of a scoring wing, Pacome Dardier. So there's some upside. Juan V says, I'm a traditionalist. I prefer the 82 and make the games tougher. Maybe extend the roster so that teams can play more guys. I like that. I like that. I definitely understand what you're saying, man. Look, I mean, I never complain about more games. I'm just simply saying that I think long term could be a better option having 60. But I'll never complain about seeing more Knicks basketball. I just think for the product, it might strengthen the NBA. Each team playing 60. Your stars can play more games. They can play more. Guys will be locked in. And then you can put more emphasis on the in-season tournament. You can combine that with the All-Star break and have a nice little, like a 2-week break in the season, an exhibition. Or you could expand the playoffs and make that more box office. You could sell playoff packages to your streaming networks, and maybe this could be a reward for the top, let's say the top 4 seeds, Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks, and the Pacers. I know they do this in other sports, but maybe the top 4 seeds get a round off, right? Hey guys, you've gone all out in the regular season. You deserve and have earned a week off, or 2 weeks off, and so all the way down to 5, and you expand the in-season tournament, and you say, all right, 5 all the way down to 12, right? All this tanking business, we're going to hit you. We're going to hurt you even further, because 5 all the way down to 12, guess what, guys? You're going to be in a play-in, and we're going to expand the playoffs a bit, and the top 4 seeds get to rest. How about that? Right, so that's going to push people to get wins, but it's also going to reward guys that get the top 4 seed. The Clippers are going to be a tough game. Yep, D Grant says, I'm not sure about the Clippers. They could lose that game. Donovan Mitchell, man, that was, a tough situation. I don't think Leon Rose expected Cleveland to come in and pounce. I think the Knicks were playing it cool with Donovan. I still think Leon would have been interested. LB says, I think Thibs has lost the locker room. It's just time to fire him this game. Losing the Spurs and Charlotte back to back is crazy. It definitely is crazy, but I don't think it's a reason to fire the coach right now. I think do it in the summer, man. I think I don't want that upheaval right now. Bringing a guy in 2 weeks before the playoffs start, right? I think, but yeah, off season definitely. LB also says making the league 60 still won't matter. Players just low management. Still, they'll still load management. So I'm still instead playing 65 now. They're playing 45. So they'll still load manage, you feel, even if it's 60. Man, I like the suggestion from Juan about maybe bigger rosters. Maybe you scrap the two-way contracts and you just allow 18 players. Maybe you allow 18. Maybe you expand the NBA draft to 80 picks and you allow teams to, from 60 to 80, you allow them to pick two-way players that go undrafted and they formulate the 15 to 18 spots, but they can be playoff eligible if there's an injury as well. Imagine that. Imagine if the Knicks don't have to worry about this two-way business and they can play Marjon Beauchamp in the playoffs, or they could play Moses Brown, or they could play Kevin McCullough. That's something the NBA could do. Just do away with the two-way contracts, man. If you can sign them, you can play them, man. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter, in my opinion, man. But yeah, I hope next season, on that note, guys, Tyler Kolek, Pacome Dardier, McCullough so far, I like their progression. Huckamania, in the limited opportunities, they've looked solid. That they look like the future in terms of some rotation pieces off our bench right now. You let Campaign walk in the summer in free agency. You let Landry Shamet walk. PJ Tucker will be gone. Maybe you sign Marjon Beauchamp to a real roster deal if he impresses. Huck Porty's on the real regular deal, so he's a real backup to watch for next season with Jericho out of here. I do think Precious Achua will probably walk as well. He might get the mid-level. He might get the smaller mid-level, the $3 million. I don't think the Knicks would keep him unless he's willing to take the veterans minimum. So yeah, there will be some changes. There will be the roster upheaval. But yeah, man, it's going to be fascinating to see how the rest of this season plays out, as the Knicks will limp over the finish line because of the Jalen Brunson injury. But as a silver lining kind of thing, I think it could be a small blessing in disguise, because whether we finish 5, 4, 3, we know the second round leads to Boston or Cleveland. And ultimately, guys, Jalen Brunson is getting rest. Think if Jalen Brunson was actually healthy right now, we would have won these last 2 games, but Thibs would have just put more mileage on his legs. And we would be in a situation where, he won't be fresh when the playoffs commence, right? At least at this point in time, by the time the playoffs start, Brunson will have had weeks of rest and on those legs. So I think that's a small benefit that you can take from this current situation. We are going to lose a few more games, but basically the seeding is close to being locked up. Whether it's 3, 4, I don't think we'll fall 5, but I think 3 or 4. Obviously, if we can avoid Boston in the second round, I do think it's going to give us more confidence. I think imagine if Mitchell Robinson's fully healthy. Let's say we win a hard-fought series against the Bucks, Pacers, or Pistons, and we advance from the 4 seed. We face Cleveland. I think we're going to be a little bit more confident going into that series as opposed to a Boston. Shez V says you got to let Thibs walk as well. Well, Thibs ain't a free agent, so you're going to have to pay him out. You're going to have to send him packing with that one and give him that check. Johnny says, CT, if Deuce can't play while Brunson is out, who starts at the point? So let's say, like today, let's say Deuce was questionable, say he couldn't play. He definitely starts Campaign. But for me, give Tyler Kolek. What the heck? Give Tyler Kolek the start. Let Campaign continue to come off the bench. I'm for real. I'm for real. Obviously, I don't see Delon Wright getting an opportunity. Uh, let's see how that plays out, man. But yeah, I think today was more of a schedule loss. Cat didn't have it defensively. We ran out of the gym. It happens. These younger legs, young teams. Um, it's frustrating. We should have at least won one of these two. But the bigger problem is that they're gassed right now. And there's 13 games remaining. What's Thibs going to do? Is he going to give guys a chance to get an opportunity before the playoffs? John says our offensive plays are awful. We need a new offense. The Mike D'Antoni 7 seconds offense would be great for this roster with Tibbs's defense. John, I think I like the faster paced offense like you. The D'Antoni offense, I think, isn't going to suit Jalen Brunson. I think if you're playing without Jalen Brunson, it can work. But if you're planning to have two big lineups with Cat and Mitch, I think that could be a struggle. If you're playing bench lineups with Hart, or Hart's in the starting five, and Deuce, Mikal, OG, definitely those guys like getting up and down. They get us easy buckets. The problem is with Brunson, he's going to gas out. Brunson's more of a half court kind of guard, in my opinion. If you had a LaMelo Ball like you saw tonight, LaMelo Ball in that Mike D'Antoni system would be generational. Altieri says CBA should make it mandatory that each player on the roster can get a certain amount of minutes. Force the coaches strategically to use players. Added element of competition. That's interesting, man. I've never heard that suggestion before, and definitely I feel like maybe not minutes, but maybe games allocations. Like that would be interesting. D Bucket says, bottom line is the Knicks are soft as a team. You can't tell me TJ would not be better than Shamet and Moses would not be better than Precious. Diehard fan, but I don't like this team. I hear you, D Buckets. Obviously, there are parts of the team that people dislike. Hopefully, you do like most of the team. Brunson, Cat. Obviously, the pieces, OG, the core is going to be here moving forward. We will be better next season. It will be a stronger roster. But I do think hopefully a coaching change will be on the cards. With this current coach, he's not going to play like a TJ, Moses Brown, those kind of guys ahead of the vets. If you've got a guy like an Emu Udoka, a younger-minded coach, has a different philosophy, those coaches do play some of the younger guys. So we might see that next season if we switch things up. My issue with over the years, the Knicks haven't prioritized rookies. First round draft pick rookies, right? Now, Huck Porty's gotten a few opportunities. Hopefully next season he gets more, but Bacome Dardier, Tyler Kolek, they haven't seen nowhere near enough minutes than what they should. Right? They've been criminally underutilized this season, right? Basically, two kind of first round, early second round draft picks. They should have got more minutes, right? No scenario should you be prioritizing a journeyman veteran, Cameron Payne, ahead of your first round, draft pick. Under no scenario should you be prioritizing Landry Shamet ahead of your first round draft selection, Bacome Dardier. Right? Even if there's growing pains and sometimes they need to make mistakes, you still have to play them. Because what are we getting from Landry Shamet? The same thing. Turnovers, bricks, inconsistent minutes. Pacome Dardier could have been given us the same thing, but be developing in the process, you know? And these guys, they get in with 2 minutes remaining, you know, they've got to be frustrated. Tendrell says, yeah, winning 8 games without JB is going to be a struggle. Yeah, man, we went through the schedule. We'll do it again just real quick. I think we're probably going to win 6 more games, 6 or 7. I think 8 is going to be tough. And again, this is all theoretic because I penciled these 2 games as 2 wins, set Spurs and tonight. But obviously, the players had other plans. So theoretically, we should beat Washington, Dallas, Portland, Philadelphia. That's 4. ATL is on the road, unfortunately, so that's 50-50. That would be our 5th win. Phoenix at home. Are they tanking? Are they still vying for a play-in? That could be 6. Then you've got Boston, Detroit, Cleveland, and Brooklyn. If you split those 4, you get 8. If you can only win one of those 4, you get 7. So yeah, I think between 5 to 8. 8 on the higher side, 5 on the lower side. But again, if Boston's packed it up by then, and JEB's back, we might win. You know, Boston might be like, hey, you know, we don't care. You know, we're not going to give you a feel good win. We're going to sit everybody. We're going to sit everybody, and you're going to get a win, a meaningless win. Cleveland might do the same as well on the second to last game. Johnny says a gas Thibs team at the end of a season is his MO. You said it, man. And also, I don't want to say this out aloud, but a rundown point guard as well. You know, yeah, he needs his point guard, just Thibs. You know, he runs that point guard into the ground. You know, the score first point guard. D Bucket says, I love the Knicks and will always root hard, but I just don't like our identity. Is a better way to word it. Yeah, I feel you, 100%. I feel you. You know, Knicks teams change throughout the years. They come and they go. I'm looking at this thing as a first year kind of thing. It's not close to the finished product yet. Maybe before the season began, Leon felt like maybe it was closer to what he hoped. But obviously we see now that changes have to be made. I've liked our team a lot more since Mitch got back. I was really starting to get really disheartened with seeing Karl Anthony Towns, you know, at the starting 5 for the majority of the games. And so, you know, I quickly found out that that's not the solution. You know, you need to play a rim protector next to Cat. So next season that should be the blueprint. And I want to push OG back to the 3. Honestly, for his health, durability, for the future as well. Bridges, the jury is still out. I'm not going to lie. It's a wait and see for me. Like I said, I could get with Bridges being off the bench. I think that would, you know, mean that we're a lot stronger and we're, you know, hopefully close to that chip. But who could you bring in? Does Dardier take a big leap in a year or 2? He becomes a starter. Does, you know, do we sign and trade Bridges and try to get some value back? There's a lot of different options. I mean, they could lose every game. I don't think they will, but yeah, anything's possible, man. Maybe there's a bigger fraction in that locker room, man, and guys are just trying to keep cool about it, just trying to ride the bump through to the off season. Either way, we're going to find out, man. If they roll over and die in the first round to a Detroit, we'll know that Thibs lost the locker room, man, and he's going to get fired. If they fight like hell and pull off a first round series win, then we know that they're locked in, man. They're strapped in. Like JI says, yeah, I agree with you totally. 2 minutes to go, you finally get called into the game. It's insulting. Kolek better off in the G League. At least he would be getting plenty of playing time. Yeah, it's hit and miss. They are doing the same thing with McCullough. And McCullough had a great game, triple-double last night. He's finding a rhythm now. I really feel like they've got Kolek called up because Brunson's out. And when you're on the road, you just never know. Deuce might wake up with food poisoning, or he might wake up and he can't go, and you're scrambling. So they've got Kolek traveling, but yeah, give him a chance. Give him some minutes. But like I said, I think if I'm guessing, he won't yank campaign because he's probably worried about the locker room. His boys with Bridges. Those guys have built that relationship over the season, and if you pull campaign now on the eve of a season, I think a veteran coach might be like, worried about how that could go. So, Thibs is relying on these vets for the playoffs, and he's going to go down, with the ship. What's going to be inexcusable for next season is if, the priority isn't Kolek, Dardier, and give those guys training camp and give them first dibs, right? That they will be the veterans on the block. Once, we are going to make another draft pick in the second round, assumingly we make 2. If we buy another pick, we've got the Memphis second rounder. But Kolek and Dardier, Huckporty and McCullough, they won't be the rookies no more. So they'll be deserving a shot, and they need to. I do expect Shamet and Payne to not come back. Precious the same. Ideally, Huckporty just steals Precious minutes. Dardier will steal Shamet minutes, and Kolek will steal Payne minutes once those guys leave. Because your players are losing value as well. Let's look at it from that perspective, guys. You have draft picks. They are currency. Every draft pick you have is actually it's a token of currency. You could say it's crypto, whatever, and it doesn't mean anything until you use it on a player, and then you draft a player, and then the clock starts ticking. If you're not using that player, the value starts to go down. Okay, what kind of value is Tyler Kolek? If let's say we're discussing an off-season trade with Danny Ainge, and let's say Danny Ainge calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm willing to talk to you about Walker Kessler now. What's your best deal?" And if you're Leon Rose and you say, "Okay, what do you think about this? We've got Kolek, we've got Dardier. Do you like any of those guys?" Danny Ainge might be like, "What? You're wasting my time. I want value." And you're like, "Well, these guys are value. They're first rounders. He could be a point guard for the future for you, backup." And Ainge will be like, "Well, you haven't played him. I don't know what he is. So, call me back. Call me back when you got something else." And so don't forget, we had to give Obi Toppin away for 2 second rounders. Obi Toppin was always at the very least a quality rotation player for every NBA team, and we only got 2 seconds back. We lost value on him. He was a first rounder, man. He was the 9th overall pick. If Kolek and Dardier, they don't get a shot in the next 12 months, they won't be looked at as first rounders no more. They'll be looked at as draft busts in the eyes of other GMs. So we have to do a better job of getting those guys minutes throughout the season. Yeah, prioritizing wins, but also making sure that they can get, into the rotation. That's what good organizations do. They play guys while they develop as well, and try to build winning habits as well. Not running your Josh Harts into the ground, 30 years old. His legs will fall off, I think, by the time he's 32 at this rate. My worry for Jalen Brunson in the long run is that by the time he hits 32, 31, it's a drop off because all the minutes, all the minutes. Right now, JB's only 28, and he theoretically is not reliant on athleticism like other point guards like Ja Morant. So I hope that like a guy like Brunson can age like Steph Curry, where he's 35, 36, and still playing at a very high level. If JB was to continue playing 40 minutes a night for the next 3 seasons, then we don't know what he's going to look like. Maybe there's a drop off. Hopefully not. But yeah, ideally we should be playing JB 30, 32, 33, 34, still win games, and you play Kolek 15 to 18. That's what a well-run organization needs to be doing, man. I'm pretty sure like a guy like Jamal Murray, in Denver doesn't play that many minutes, doesn't play 40 a night. Mike Malone, I think he got him in there 34, 35. That's it. Maximum. Altango says we got rid of too many players because of Thibs' stubbornness and stupidity. It's a double-edged sword because he got the most out of the roster to get us in that seeding and try to get us further, but the players gassed out in the playoffs. So again, it all goes back to the playoffs, fam. I think the regular season, Thibs puts too much stock in the regular season, right? The playoffs are really the eye on the prize, man. If you're playing 4D chess, you should really be a good team should be coasting through a regular season, in my opinion, and be gearing up to change gears for the playoffs. The Thibs teams, unfortunately, they don't have another gear. Once they get to the playoffs, they're already in 6th gear, and it's like we can't go any faster. While the other team is hitting in sixth gear, and they've got NOS as well, to hit that next gear. So yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. See how things play out, but appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. Enjoy the conversation, always the passion, the energy, and the questions, the perspective. Right now, things look tough without JB, especially with no Mitch tonight. We have to win the next 2 right now. There is some benefits to falling to the 4th seed, I still feel. But, right now, I'll prefer Thibs to go into a 10-man rotation. Use these final 13 games to see what these other guys have, and you're going to ease the minutes on some of the other guys like OG, Macau, and so that they're more fresh, for the playoffs. Because, the first round, it's going to be tough, whether it's Indiana and a rematch, whether it's Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis, or whether it's a young, hungry Detroit. We have to be at our best. We have to be at our best to get through that. So, let's see what happens, man. Next up, Wizards Saturday night. That's going to be insane. Wizards have got some young, hungry players as well. So that's going to be a tough game, right? So we'll talk about it then. Everyone, peace. Big up to the chat. Blessings to everyone. And let's go Knicks. 13 games left. AP says possibly 17 left for Tom Thibodeau. It's crazy to think how quick the season's gone by, man. 13 games left. Maybe Brunson's back within the next 8 to 10, and he gets a week before the playoffs commence, you know. Like we got the update today. As Steve Popper says, the math on Brunson is if he plays 4 more, let me bring this up. Yeah, four more games for JB, and he can win the postseason awards. So that could be a situation where they're looking at, you know, getting JB back with maybe 4, 5, 6 games remaining, if possible. Obviously, if medically he can't go, then don't risk it. But that could be the aim, to get JB back for that final week, everyone. So yeah, peace. Let's get it. Saturday night. Peace, everyone.